All right, so we're going over Michi's back checker strategy, and we've gone through a number of the stages: the initial stage, the advanced stage, and what we call it, the completed stage. So the initial stage is when you're haven't split your back checkers, and basically the idea is you play very loose and you try to get to the advanced stage, and then the advanced stage is when you've had the anchor. For advanced anchor, 4 or 5 point anchor, and basically you're going to play it much more safely. And then the completed stage is when you've cleared your anchor and you're basically have a midpoint holding game. Then you're going to play super safely because you don't want to be set back. You want to take every advantage. So now we're going to cover, and there are 2 more stages to go. We're going to talk today about what's what it calls the solo stage, which is otherwise known as single checker back. So you have 1 checker to escape. You've already sent one out to the midpoint or got it around somehow, and you have 1 back and to play with. And then we'll talk about the butterfly stage, or the butterfly anchor, which is I think another one of Michi's insights that was not widely known, or not widely thought of, until he pointed it out and spent quite a bit of time discussing it and how to play it in this book. So on the screen is an example of what he calls a solo stage, or single checker back. And so we get into the situation, and you know, what's the idea here? So you know, so let's look, what's the right play here? We got a 5-4 to play. And what would you think about?
I wouldn't want to leave another blot, so I'll either go 24-15 or 24-20, 13-8.
Yeah.
I think I'd run all the way, but I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. No, that's a good thing. There are a couple of things going on that are tricky here. One is that, well, first of all, when you have the single checker back, you can't anchor, obviously. And so you don't really want to let your opponent build a prime or put you on the bar, which he can do easily by hitting loose, even if he leaves a shot, or worse, by pointing on you. So your strategy really here ultimately is racing here. That's kind of your only strategy when you have a single checker back, because you can't wait. Now, obviously, there's something going on the other side of the board, but basically, you want to get that checker out back. And also, yeah, you don't really want to get hit. If you generally have something of a racing lead if you've escaped a back checker, and so you want to take advantage of that. And the idea is race when you're ahead in the base race. Now, on the other hand, in this case, it looks like we got a 6-5 in the first roll, and so we've got 6 checkers stacked on our midpoint. So we'd really like to unstack, because that's one of the other proverbs here that Michi came up with. Unstack your stacks, get the checkers into play. So there's a there's sort of a trade-off here. So how did we analyze it? Well, Michi's, I guess, main directive here is that when you're in the what he calls a solo stage or single checker back, he calls it pop out. You want to pop out. You want to escape the second checker. You want to get to what he called the completed stage. So having the safety checker. So in this case, the right thing to do is to run out. And so there are 2 other alternatives that are worthwhile that you might think of. One is 2 down, and because that unstacks the midpoint the most efficient way by bringing 2 down. But what's the problem with that? And Ray mentioned it. So someone else. Yeah, you got a blot here, and black has split his back checkers. So if you count the shots, you got 6-2, 5-3, double 4s. That's 5 shots. That's and 7s, 5-4, 3-4. I'm sorry, 5, 2, 3, 4, and 6, 1. So you're leaving a total of 11 shots, and that's a lot of shots. Particularly when you're, your best strategy at this point is really just to race. So, and yeah, similarly with this play, this isn't as bad, but and you're bringing down, so you are unstacking a bit, but you're putting a checker right in front of right at the point that black would really like to make, and so he's going to hit you loose, certainly with either an ace, a 3, or an 8, and he may hit you, or he may point at you with a good number, but even if he hits you loose, you have no board, so you're not really looking for a hitting game. It's not as bad because you can hit him back, and then you're heading the race again. But the best play in the in the solo stage is pop out. So that's the idea. Look at another example. So here, now what's now we're on our third roll, the third roll here. You probably know what the right move here is the second roll. So here we opened with a 6-5, black opened with a 6-2, and went up and down. And yeah, so what would be the right play if this were the second roll? Anyone remember that one?
I'd run all the way. The alternative is to hit twice, but I'd run all the way.
Yeah. Well, in this case, yeah, if this were the second roll,
I'd hit.
if this were the second roll, the right play is to hit twice. Tiger play, you've got the 9th checker in the zone. We have 9 checkers in the zone. You hit twice if you can, assuming there's nothing better to do. However, this is not the case. We've already run out. We have a small lead, and so we're in the solo stage, and the idea is to run out. And so that's the right play. And hitting twice isn't terrible, but here you have the advantage of the racing lead, and with only a single checker back, that makes it better to run out. So again, you race. You want to race if you can, or really, so maybe not just racing, maybe it's just escaping the back checker, because that last checker is vulnerable to being primed or being attacked because he can't anchor. Okay. Six, 4. This is an interesting one. Where both both are in the solo stage, and there's an obviously appealing play here, and that would be hitting off the on the 2-point. But is that the right play? Well, it's certainly not appeal to hit. You always put the opponent on the bar. That's good. You make a point. That's good. But the 2-point is still a 2-point. It's not really a good point. And here you can come out and safety the checker. I mean, you'll have to move it, but it's safe for now, and you've got a decent lead. So following his the rule, the idea is to pop out. When you have that single checker, you're much more likely to pop out. And did you want to say something? You can jump in.
So if would this depend on the game score? Would it change if you were ahead or behind in the game score?
Usually it doesn't, but here you might take the more aggressive play if you were behind. Because the other problem with this pointing on making the 2-point is that you've left the blot here. So if black comes in with something in a 2, and you've given him a good 2 by which, if you've made the 2-point, the 2 is no good coming in, but it's a good to hit there. So let's see if you had a, generally it's not correct to, it doesn't make that a big enough difference that you should worry too much about it when based on the score. But let's see if that
Okay.
matters here. It doesn't. So, and if you look at the wins and yeah, I guess from this position, their gammons, you might, if you could put yourself in a gammonish position, you might want to do that. So be more inclined to be aggressive when you're behind. Here, and here, if you can, I don't know if you can see the numbers, but this is 58% wins and 7% gammons. Okay, so and this plays 53% wins, but 14% gammons. Now, let's just to carry that idea through. Let's say you were in this position. Now you're going to add a 3-point board, and now it's going to be a little bit stronger to make the 2-point, and it is, but it's still not the right play to make here.
Okay.
So now let's if we went to a super sensitive score. Let's see if that matters. Here, 2-away, 4-away. And now it's slightly better. Because here the gammon wins you the match. Well, actually, we don't have the cube turn. Let's turn the cube. And now probably this is now this is a huge increase. Because here, now we're looking at 23% gammons versus and a gammon wins the match. So here and then the running play is 68% wins versus 64. But the gammons are less than half. So but for the most part, you're better off not worrying too much about the match score.
Okay. Thank you.
There are exceptions I would say is this 2-away, 4-away, which is, was called gammon go, where the gammon wins you the match if you've cubed. Then you might play a little bit differently as you do here, but generally I wouldn't worry too much about it. You don't get that much out of that.
Okay.
Okay. So, all right, that was that one. Okay, another one. Yeah, so here we've got some more kind of conflicting proverbs. I mean, there's fight for the good point, in which case we would hit here on the 4. Or you could, you might want to unstack because you still have 5 checkers here, but single checker back. The answer is run. So solo checker, you want to run, even though you're running into a double shot here. You don't want you have no development yet, so you don't really want to get into a hitting game. So whereas black, black, it's not an in-board point, but he's got the bar point, and that's worth, that's worth something. But again, the main idea is single checker back. You want to run. That's kind of your game plan. Yeah, so this is an interesting one, and a lot of things to consider. So what do we see that we might want to worry about here? What are the plays, and what do we have to worry about?
You either run or make the 3-point.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's so let's look at the 3-point. What's good or bad about that?
It's bad. It's not really. Our back check is probably going to be even more stuck next time if.
Yeah, well, there's that. Yeah, because there's black could make the 4' and that's much more difficult to get out of. So there's that. But just focus on the front. Okay, we made the 3-point. That's in a board point. That's good. But look,
it doesn't work with the 9-point.
Yeah, that's a good point, check it out, and I'll point that out here. But look, we've got a 4' here, and now, so we haven't really extended our prime. We have this gap. So maybe if we would make it the 4 point, it might be stronger. But we can't really prime. We didn't work on it. We didn't improve our prime from here by doing this. And so, yeah, while making a point is good, making a better point would have been much better. If we could make the 5 point, then that's probably the right thing to do. Yeah, and as Jacob pointed out, in general, this is not in Michi's book, but as a general idea, points that are 6 pips apart, like this, now by making the 3 point, we've made this 9 point less productive, less useful. And in general, if you we don't have the roll for this, but you wouldn't necessarily want to make this 9 point if that were a choice, if you had another decent option, because points 6 point aparts aren't as valuable. You'd much actually this one and this one, you'd rather have this one.
Can't be part of the same prime.
Yeah, it's kind of a redundant. I mean, it's not. It's not. It's one of those things. It's not terrible. Having a point is always, it's generally better. Well, it's always better than not having the point, if all other things being equal. But it's certainly less valuable. But that is a good, good general rule in general is if you're making a point and you already have a point 6 pips away, then it's not, not as strong as a point. It's not as valuable. But here, making the point is good. It's not bad, but it's not great either, because you don't extend the prime. You're also, I should mention, you're also now stripped out here, and so if you're going to want to make the 4 or the 5 point, you're going to have to break a point out here. And again, breaking the 9 point isn't terrible, but so if you get a 5-1 or 4-1 or 5-2, you're okay, but you probably don't want to break the 8 point, and certainly not the 7, unless you have no other choice. So what's the other option? Well, the option is to come out here. And so now we've, our danger is this 4 prime here, which black could extend to a 5 prime, or it's not a full purple prime yet, but he's got a lot of numbers that would make the 4 prime next time, making it much harder to hop over it. So now we've hopped over it. Black has a 4 to hit us. If he doesn't get that 4, we're in pretty good shape. We're up by 24 pips, and we've got a good 4 prime of our own, and we've escaped our checkers. And well, we're not at the completed stage yet, because this checker is not safe, but it's pretty close to being safe. Only I think probably double 4s is not a good number, but any other number will safety it next time. So let's see what the answer to that is. And the answer is that, and actually it's a huge blunder to make the 3 point. Perfect escaping number. So yeah, when you get that solo checker back, you're going to look to escape it. All right, so there's 2 more for now. So this is an interesting one. So what's the right play here? This is a trickier one because we can't really escape the back checker. We can now. The best we could do in terms of a pop out is here. But we're giving up 6s and we're giving up 1s. And black will certainly hit us if we do that. So it's not a lot. So what are the alternatives that we might think of?
13-8 with either 24-23 or 6-5.
Yeah, certainly eight, that's any five, it's obvious to bring it down and to the 8 point. And then the question is, do you want to step up one pip or to hit loose?
I played safe. Black's got a stronger board. We don't want another checker back.
Yeah. Well, typically, yeah, you would think that but there are a couple things, and these are good points that Michi points out, is that one is that, and he makes sort of a big deal of this, the checker on your back checker on the 23rd point is not a good place for that to be. Because you need a 5, the only safe play out is double 5s, which there's only one of, as opposed to 6-5 for this one, which there are 2. And so the best you can do is kind of pop out here and know where land, generally. So bringing this up to there is not that helpful. And in general, and also you lose coverage from the outfield. If Black needs to dump a checker somewhere, you've got one less spot to dump it. Black could roll a 6-4, which now, if you're here, is a very good play. If you're here, it's not bad, but it's not as strong. And Black doesn't really, and double 5s will hit you, but generally you're not looking to make the ace point. So having that checker on the ace point is the least damaging way to, or at least dangerous way to go. So the question is, okay, so you're going to come down here. And what about hitting there? Well, there's some obvious problems that that Ray pointed out. Black has the better board, and in general, this Grill's bold safe is if your opponent has a better board, you're not going to want to get into a hitting contest, and so you want to play a little bit safer because over the long term with the better board, Black has the advantage. On the other hand, there's you're going to fight for the good point. And so, it's not really clear. Those don't help you make the decision. Plus, if you're here, there's a good chance you'll get hit back and you're going to start over again. So you're going to lose a lot of ground. So what's the, what's the answer to this? And this, this is one that, this is one you learn from, because you can't tell. From all the things we talked about, it wasn't clear. Oops.
You've got to check her off, Gary.
Yeah. I think it was here. Let me put it on again. Yeah. And so, in this case, it's hitting loose off the 5 point, and it's slightly better. Now, I know that there's no way that you could figure that out by the things that we discussed, because there are pros and cons to either side. And so this is the kind of thing that you just kind of have to remember that hitting it's almost in fact it's usually right to go with if you have the ace to go with 6-5 to hit him off the strong point, and you have to have something really good otherwise. So this is one that you just kind of have to remember. But with the idea of the chapter is the solo checker back, you want to run out into the outfield if you can. You want to pop out. Here you can't pop out. So if you can't pop out, moving the checker, the back checker to the 2 point is not helpful. And so you're not going to want to do that unless you have no alternative. But here you have an alternative. It has its drawbacks that we talked about, and you get hit back. You're now behind in a race and you're fighting against a better board. But that is still better. Getting missed is still better than coming up to the 2 point for the back checker. One thing that Michi does point out is that maybe we'll get this in the next one.
Gary,
Yeah.
is the 2 point bad only if they have something on the, a 2 or 3 on the 17 point? In other words, is it the 6 that makes this
No,
2 points so bad?
Well, it's the fact that you don't have, well, it's like if you're back here, you have a 6-5 that safeties that checker. And if you're here, only double 5 safeties the checker. So you have fewer numbers that work well. Also, a 5 is good to get out here and then you can move it, but a 5 is also safe to come down 13 to 8. And then there's the coverage. Should black need to dump a checker someplace, you've got less coverage. There's the 6-4 play, or the double 4s, even double 2s, which point on the 23 point. So that's a combination of things. Now, the best spot to be in for this, your solo checker back, is here. 22 points, 22 points. Sorry about that. Because now you've got 4 5s that safety this checker, and really 6-3 puts it here. Well, it's not quite safe in this situation, but it's often safer.
Suppose that black had only 2 checkers on the 17. Then I think I might be tempted to run out. But put it back on the 24 and see what the correct play is now. I wonder now whether.
Oh, I see what you. Yeah.
Because you're leaving a blot.
Yeah, it's still. Yeah, it hasn't changed, but it's a good point. And part of if you remember the splitting rules, if you only had 2 checkers on the 8 point here, it's usually a good time to split, because black is going to have to. If black needs the 8 point to hit, then he's going to break that point. But here in this case, it didn't. It didn't matter.
No.
Let's go back to the original. So here, let's see what the right play is. Yes, okay, yes, and this was the point, yeah. So here, the 5-1, moving up to the 22 point is a better place to be. It's easier for white to jump out here. So that's kind of that makes the difference over hitting loose, and hitting loose is still not bad, but I guess the point is, if you're here, you don't want to step up to the 2 point. You're going to hit loose. But if you're here, now stepping up to the 3 point is a better point to escape from. And so then you're not going to hit loose, you're going to step up. So that's kind of a dynamic to remember. Don't step up to the 2 point, but step up to the 3 point. Okay, so that's it for the solo stage. I guess actually there's a few more things to play for the solo stage, but that's it for this portion of the solo stage. And then when we'll have another session on the solo stage, and then we'll get into the butterfly stage, which will take 2 or 3 things to go through. So, all right, let's turn the recording off.